Some budgets in recent years have sunk without a trace after a couple of days. Lara Giddings, first as Treasurer, is going to be talked about for a long time to come. Because implementing it will cause various forms of pain to most Tasmanians. Some will lose their jobs, others will wait longer on hospital waiting lists, while the cost of living will increase for most. And communities across the state are now starting to rally against what they see as not just the closing of their schools, but their towns as well. Martin Cudahy reports.
Nestled in the Derwent Valley, about an hour northwest of Hobart, are Bushy Park and Glenora. Students come from the surrounding communities, as well as Maydena, Ouse, Gretna and Westaway, to attend the Glenora District High School. It's empty for school holidays at the moment, but under proposed budget cuts, the classrooms might just stay this way. When 7:30 Tasmania contacted the parents of some students, it didn't take long for word to get out.
Oh, I honestly can't believe it. I really can't. It's really had a big effect on us.
How will it affect you?
Oh, it affects us in a lot of ways, like travel, where to send them. They don't want to go anywhere else. They're so used to being here. All my family's around here. You know, we all grew up here. I went to school here myself.
Well, I've put 3 children through this school. She's the last one, and it means everything to us. It's a fantastic little school with a great sense of community. It means everything to us.
The budget handed down yesterday foreshadowed the closure of up to 20 schools. $50 million needs to be shaved from Education Department spending in the coming financial year. The government says the decisions are being driven by demographic change and students will be better educated in the end.
These sorts of amalgamations or closures of schools are not just driven by savings, it's in fact driven by trying to provide better educational opportunities for our students.
I don't know whether it's just money to them and they just want to close things down willy-nilly, but I don't think they realise, like Georgina says, the community that we have up this way.
Undoubtedly, families who are affected by school closures will not like the idea of the kids travelling on the bus for perhaps half an hour a day in each direction in order to go to school. My guess is that they will probably end up getting a better range of subjects to study while they're at school, as well as saving the state considerable amount of money that ultimately will make a better education system more sustainable.
In 1990, there was similar opposition when the government proposed cutting 600 teachers and saving $18 million.
Well, one has to have enough money to pay for the service you're providing, and the government doesn't have enough money to keep funding education at the rate it has been.
Back then, even students spoke out against the changes.
Cutting education in this drastic a sense is going to do anything, because in 10 years' time it's just going to be called a bureaucratic mistake and they'll say, right, that generation's not well enough educated, we haven't got enough specialists.
That Labor government was voted out 2 years later. In the Derwent Valley, they're already considering their options. Trudy, you said you'd think about moving out of this community.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if we haven't got the school, we haven't got a community, I might as well leave.
Tony McCall, an expert in regional development, predicted this yesterday.
People want to have educational access for their children, and it doesn't matter whether they work in the region or whether they work in the area. If they can't have a school, they'll consider relocation, and so these settlements will decline.
Tasmania's Social Inclusion Commissioner wants more help for low-income households.
Government can only do so much to address it, but it can probably do more than it's doing at the moment.
Over the past 5 years, the number of Tasmanians seeking emergency assistance has almost doubled. David Adams is working on a cost of living strategy for the government to be delivered later this year. He says he's now having to take into consideration how much money his recommendations will cost.
Someone has to pay, but there are many strategies that are either cost neutral or in the longer term are savings to government. So I'll be looking particularly at those, not simply direct additional costs on taxpayers.
Big business has lauded the long called for cuts to the public sector. The business lobby believes the government has taken the first step to reducing the draining impacts of a bloated public service.
I think the Premier is to be congratulated for having the courage to actually address the issues, regardless of where her traditional supporter base lies. I think it's a strong move, it's a bold move, and one to be congratulated.
We've got to expect to be able to attract families to this. People are just not going to do that. Our health system is fast becoming the basket case.
The razor has also been taken to the Health Department, with $100 million to be cut from the budget next financial year. Prominent GP Dr Graham Alexander believes less health funding will drive staff interstate.
The question I'd like to ask the business community, pre-budget we had the worst performing health system in the country. The question they need to be asked is how will they be able to attract a workforce, management, with a state that is labelled the worst performing health system in the country.
He's also concerned about what services will be cut through less specific measures, like reducing the amount spent on locums, travel, conferences and payroll.
So such broad sweeping statements from the government, you will cut your budget by so many %. Well, where? What clinics at the hospital will have to be reduced because of this or stopped altogether? Which illnesses will we treat, which illnesses won't we treat?
Back in Glenora, there's a growing sense of unease. In many regional towns, the school acts as a hub. It draws the community together. So parents here are really worried. They're convinced that without a school, the town will die a slow death. What other options are you considering?
Well, Norfolk's not an option for us. My kids, like I said, have been there and they don't want to go back there. So I'd probably really have to consider homeschool would be my only option probably, because I'm not sending them to Hobart. I don't believe that they should have to travel that far.
No doubt the government will be hoping that sentiment doesn't translate to the ballot box.